Hey there. So in this video, I'm going to go over some of the constructions that were on the Unit 3 review. So there's a couple of new ones here. So for number 14, we're going to rotate 90 degrees clockwise around point C. So we haven't done a 90-degree rotation in terms of a construction. So one thing I would recommend is that before you even start doing the construction, think about where the points should be. So for example, if I'm going to rotate, say, point F, 90 degrees clockwise, remember that's this way, or sorry, that's this way around point C. What I want to look at is, okay, I'm going to connect the point to the center of rotation, and then if I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees clockwise, point F is going to rotate this way, and it's going to rotate 90 degrees. So you kind of want to maybe even just sort of in your mind at least, or something, sort of put some little dotted lines in there, and just visualize point F prime should be somewhere over here. So when you do the construction, make sure that that ends up roughly where it should be. So what I'm going to do for this is I am going to start off the same way I would if I were going to do a 180-degree rotation. And I am going to put this dotted line from the point that I'm rotating through my center of rotation. And it doesn't have to be a dotted line, but again, there's going to be a lot of lines and a lot of construction marks in this construction. So having the dotted lines there will make it easier to differentiate between a construction mark and your actual final answer. All right, so now what I need is, remember, when I connect F to my center of rotation to F prime, it needs to be a right angle. So I need to construct a perpendicular through point C. So remember, I'm going to, and I'm going to just, because I want to minimize my construction marks, I'm actually going to use point F here. It doesn't have to be specifically this distance right here, but because if I use point F, I can minimize my construction marks. So I'm going to create a segment where point C is in the middle. So now C is the midpoint of this segment here that's made by F and this mark out here. And now I want to construct the perpendicular bisector of this little segment right here. So I'm going to open up my compass more than halfway. And really I only need one little X on here. I'm going to do it out here because when I rotate this triangle, right, it's going to rotate this way. So most of my stuff's going to be over here. So just to keep things out of the way, I'm going to open up my compass pretty wide actually. And then I'm going to find another point out here that's on the perpendicular bisector. So I don't actually need one here and one over here because I already have one. So I just need this one right here. And then point F now is going to be over here. In fact, I'll just do this before I even draw that in there. Point F is going to be out here somewhere, right? It's going to be roughly, I'm going to say probably roughly right about here. But what I need to make sure next is that the distance from C to F is the same as the distance from C to F prime. So I'm going to measure this distance right here from C to F. And then I'm going to draw an arc up here. So now, point F prime is somewhere along that arc. And it is specifically going to be, did I draw the arc long enough? Just, nope, not quite. So I'm going to draw in that perpendicular bisector. In fact, I'm not even going to draw in the whole perpendicular bisector. But point F prime is going to be right there. And so I don't need to draw in all that extra stuff. It's just going to kind of get in the way. If it helps you to draw it in, by all means, draw it in there. But I can see construction marks here that indicate that C is that midpoint, and I can see out here was the other point on the perpendicular bisector, just from the construction marks. And then here I can see that that is the distance from C to F and C to F prime, guaranteeing that they have to be the same. So if you didn't make any progress on this construction, why don't you go ahead and pause the video and see if you can finish it up, and then come back and you can watch me do the rest of it. So I'm going to do the other ones the same way. So again, when I do E to C to, or D to C to D prime, it's going to be out here somewhere. So again, I'm going to put this dotted line in here so that I can create a segment where C is the midpoint. And again, to minimize my construction marks, I'm just going to go ahead and use point D I'm going to use the distance from C to D and recreate that distance on the other side. And then I'm going to make another point. So again, C is on the perpendicular bisector of this segment right here. So I need another point that's on that perpendicular bisector of that segment. And then, just like before, now I need the distance from C to D and the distance from C to D prime to be the same. So I'm going to remeasure that distance here. And then out here. And now when I connect and create my perpendicular bisector, this is where D prime will be. And then same thing from E. So here, I'm going to measure from C to E. And actually, while I have that distance, I'm going to go ahead and draw this arc up here. Because I know that E prime is going to be roughly right in here somewhere. And then another point on the perpendicular bisector of this new segment. So maybe here. And here. And so point E prime is going to be right here. So my new triangle then is here. And again, you'll want to just eyeball it and make sure that it does appear to be a 90-degree clockwise rotation. So if you've got some tracing paper or something paper you could even maybe see through. I don't know if this one's see-through enough. Let me see. Yeah, that's actually pretty good. I can copy this. So this is just one way I can test it. And I'm going to put my point on the point of rotation and rotate 90 degrees clockwise, and there it is. So that this is in fact in the right spot. All right, then for 15, we need this. We need the line of reflection. So what you need here is you need the perpendicular bisector between any pair of corresponding points. So D and A correspond to one another. So I can do the perpendicular bisector of segment DA. I could do the perpendicular bisector of segment EB. I could do the perpendicular bisector of segment FC. It's entirely up to you. So I'm going to go ahead and do the perpendicular bisector of BE. Again, I don't need to draw that segment in to create the perpendicular bisector. If it helps you to draw it in, feel free to do that. But I just need to open up the compass more than halfway. And then draw an arc here and here. So this time I need both of them because I don't already have a point on the perpendicular bisector like I did above. And I'm really bad apparently at drawing the arcs long enough the first time. So here, now I need to construct 2 points on the perpendicular bisector. Whereas up here, I already had that point on the perpendicular bisector, so I just needed one more. And then that's it. So I'm going to go ahead and draw in that line of reflection. And then again, you want to just kind of eyeball it and make sure, does that look like it's does this line appear to be the perpendicular bisector of CF, of AD, and of BE? And if it's clearly not, then just check your constructions. And then for 17, I want to locate the center of this rotation. So what I need here is I need the perpendicular bisector of 2 pairs of corresponding parts. Because what I'm looking for is the point that's the same distance from A and A prime. And then I'm looking for a point that's also equidistant from B and B prime. Now, it doesn't have to be the same distance from all 4 points, and in fact it won't be. But it needs to be equidistant from each point in its image. So that's going to be the center of the circle if it's equidistant. So it's going to be on the perpendicular bisectors of both of those segments. Because remember, the perpendicular bisector is the set of all points that is equidistant from those endpoints. So if I construct the perpendicular bisector of A prime, so I'm going to do this the same way I did up on the previous problem. So I'm going to draw arcs here. So I'm just locating 2 points that are equidistant from A and A prime. So here's the perpendicular bisector of A prime. So again, I'm going to just do dotted lines for this. And then do the same thing for B prime. And then I'm finding it really helpful to have done this on basically the slipperiest surface in my house, apparently. So here we go. So this is the perpendicular bisector of B prime. So I actually only need this right here. So that is point C right there. So again, it is the intersection of the perpendicular bisectors of any two pairs of corresponding points. I think that's it for that page. And then last page... So this is basically the same as question 14, except you're just rotating the other direction. So this time, because it doesn't say what direction to rotate, we're going counterclockwise. So now I'm going to rotate B around P, but I'm going counterclockwise. So I know that B prime is going to be over here roughly somewhere. So I'm going to, again, go ahead and draw through my center of rotation, create a segment where P is in the middle. So again, I know that B prime is going to be right out here somewhere, so I'm going to just draw that there now. And now I need one other point on the perpendicular bisector of this segment right here. And then where these cross is going to be, this will be B prime right here. So that will be B prime. And then you'll do the same thing for A. So A prime is going to be somewhere out here. And now I want another point on the perpendicular bisector of this segment right here. So A prime will be right here. So this is A prime. And then make sure you're connecting those because you were asked to rotate that whole line. So there is my image after a 90-degree counterclockwise rotation. All right, so that's it for the constructions. Email me if you've got questions on how to do the other problems, and hopefully I'll see the email. If not, there'll be a little bit of time for questions before class tomorrow as well.